Welcome to this episode of DIY3DTech.com. In this episode, we're going to be wrapping up a bit of the heated bed testing. We're taking a look at the stock glass bed, which came with the Creality CR10. So we've got the glass bed set up in the typical fashion as with the PEI and the other measurements we've done. I've got the meter set up over here. You notice we're reading about a front back delta of about 0.2 degrees. So I have 18.9 on the back, 19.1 on the front, and I'm reading, let's go ahead and start the video. I'm reading 19.5 C on the top tape on the bed. So I've got the top tape and the bottom tape. So interestingly, these guys are pretty close in temperature. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a reading with the, oops, if I push the right button here, I'm going to take a reading off of it with the, so I'm at 18, get it down here in the frame, 18.9, and then let's take a reading off over here, and I'm at 19.3, so get it up here in the thing. So so pretty close in temperature, but it does seem to be a little bit difference in temperature. And I think the glass will not be as opaque as the PEI was. So let's go ahead. I'm going to now turn up the temperature. So mark time now. It's set to 72 degrees. And so let's start incrementing. So we're going to be watching this warm up. And you can see on the Flir, it start to warm up a little bit. Now on the PEI, it took 6.5 minutes for it to come up to temperature. So I'm really curious to see where it should be at temperature. On the Flir, when we started this, I was reading about 1 minute 47 seconds into the Flir reading. So when I hit basically, what will that be, 7 minutes and something, basically I think what 8:20, I should be at the same time as the PEI. So again, you can see the bed, it's heating actually a little bit differently if you looking at the Flir image. Now what I want to do is I want to roll this over and take a look. So on the temperature distribution appears to be different with the glass bed than it does. So I'm now reading over here off the plate itself, the temperature, I gotta wait for my hand to get out of the way now, about 26, and then if I do, let's take a quick reading here. So I'm at 25.3 where I was at 26 on the Flir. So as I'm now ramping up, I'm at about 27.4. Whoops, overshot it a little bit in the rails. So I'm reading about the same. So in the 27.28 between both. So the glass is definitely conducting heat at what appears to be fairly uniform from the bed. We'll see what this reaches temperature-wise. Oh, this guy's gone to sleep again. Keeps taking a nap on the job. So you also notice that I've got a building delta here of almost a degree. This has been a reoccurring theme, if you guys haven't noticed, where I get deltas between front and back of the bed. So this is rather interesting, and this is where such a big bed, especially with a DC heater like this, I think this is one of the challenges you're going to face. I know one of the viewers wrote in about a silicone heater, you know, an AC powered. I think that would be a far better route for a bed. When you start getting up this big, you know, past about the 8x8 of the standard printer up to a 12x12 like this, I think going with an AC bed is probably a good idea. Now we're at basically 4 minutes 37 seconds, and I'm reading about 35 degrees C on the Flir, and so I'm at 36. Let's take a quick reading off this, and I'm going to let it accumulate a little bit because I'm going to hit 37 here. So I'm at 31.3. So the Flir is reading a lot higher this is keeping, I think, closer pace with the actual meter than the Flir is. The Flir is definitely reading higher. Let's move the Flir back over and take a look at the other area. So I'm about 39 there, so let's go ahead and take a reading off that. And so that's about 4 degrees off, because I'm at about 35.7, roughly 4, maybe a little 3.5 to 4 degrees. So I'm already up to 40. So this is climbing pretty quick. It might. I was thinking that this will take longer probably than the PEI to come up to temperature, but I could be wrong, because it's coming up pretty fast. So I'm at. I'm going to be coming up here at 6 minutes total on the clock. I have a timer running on the Flir camera over here. You can see it over there. And so I'm at about 6 minutes. So I started at about 1:40. I should have started it at like 1:30 so I can keep track of the numbers easier. But I guess you guys won't hold me to task for 10 seconds. So again, I'm at over 6, and I'm at 43. So I'm over halfway there, up to the 72 number. So we had mentioned that 6.5 minutes for the PEI to come up to temperature, which would put it at what, 7.3, and then another 40 seconds on top of that. So 8. I'm thinking about it here. 8 minutes 10 seconds. Dealing with those fractionals. I love the metric system. 10 base numbers, all the rage. So again, I'm coming up now pretty close to 7 minutes. Now you can see that this area, and I definitely believe it, and this is again getting a little bit hard to see on this section of the bed here, because I got the Flir going, and you can see it really lighting up. So I'm running about 48 degrees on that, and it's definitely far brighter. So I think it is retaining some of the heat. But you know, it's also showing 48 on the other side. So even though these are two different colors, this color of this and the color of this, if I get my finger in the right spot to make it look like that, definitely two different colors. But if you look at the heat signature, I'm now at 50, and this is going to get harder to read. I'm now at about 51, I think it's about 51. Yeah, that's about 51. So let's go ahead and take another reading with the infrared thermometer. So we'll read this guy. So I'm now 44 degrees, and so I'm holding pretty close to in between here. Now notice here, I've got a pretty big delta built already between front and back. So the back is at 47 and the front is at 41. And you can see in the Flir, I would think that the front would actually be warmer. So make sure, yep, I'm telling the truth. Top number is, yeah, that's pressed down. So yeah, the top one is the front, bottom one's the back. That's what I thought. Let's take another reading over here off the bed itself. So again, 46.5, and let's roll this one back over here real quick. So I'm now at about 53. Now notice I've now passed 8 minutes, 8.5 minutes, and basically I said to match PEI I would have to reach it by 8 minutes 10 seconds on the Flir clock, which again, unfortunately you guys can't see the Flir clock. I should have did a screen recording of that. Didn't think of that. So it is now taking officially longer than the PEI. So my general assumptions were correct. It's going to take a longer period of time to warm up the glass, obviously, than it did the sheet of PEI for the, obviously, because this is probably about 1/8 of an inch, and the PEI was about 1/16 of an inch, and far different materials. But now I'm closing on 9.5 minutes. Now over there, I'm 10 degrees according to the controller from 72 degrees. So this is going to take a fair bit of time longer than what the PEI took. Now if you look over here, again where I have, because remember, I have on this side, I've got the tape on top of the bed, and I've got on top of the glass, I should say. So this is on top of the glass. This is under the glass on the bed. And you can see in the Flir the big difference it makes. And again, I think what's happening is this is causing some sort of heat buildup. But again, the interesting thing when I read it, so let's do that again. So I'll read this. I'm 52.6 and I'm 51.6 here. So I'm pretty close. I'm within a degree of temperature. Now again, check this guy out down here. So between the front and the back, I'm still quite a bit different in temperature, almost 5 degrees in temperature difference between the back and the front of this. So that's really interesting about how the temperature is moving. And again, when I look at the Flir image, it seems to be brighter up front, so I would actually have expected this number to be higher. Because this is one of the things I think about with the Flir that people get confused about, you know, because the, you know, it's supposed to be sort of the brighter, and it depends on what profile you're using in the Flir too. The brighter is supposed to be the hotter. But if you look at taking the measure, and I use the rectal tool inside of the Flir application to actually take the temperature measurements, and that's what you see on the screen when I move this back and forth. So it's actually, you can see that little crosshair, and it's measuring the temperature now of the bed at about 62 degrees. And but see, again, this is white. It gets really hard to read. So I'm reading about, I think it's about 65 degrees there. So it is a bit warmer there on that side. But again, I think what's happening is the heat is actually building up on this guy. So again, let's see. So I'm running 63 degrees on this side. So let's take another test. So I'm running it basically about 56 degrees here. And so I'm off by, what, about 8 degrees. Come on. Stay awake here. Work with me. Work with me here. So again, you can see the difference in temperature from front to back here. I'm now at 12 minutes 15 seconds, and I'm within 3 degrees of making temperature on the controller. You can see the controller overlay that I'm shooting with another camera. And so make sure all this is actually still recording, so I got a lot of video on these cards. I'm now at 70 degrees and I'm at 12 minutes 40 seconds. So this is probably going to take a bit of time more than the PI. I'm just kind of watching. I want to kind of get a temperature or time measurement of when I hit 72 degrees, so I can take a time difference. So I'm now at 13 minutes on the Flir clock, and so I'm at 71 degrees, and we just have one more degree to go. I'm at 66 on the bed, and I can't quite read it. I think 60 something on the, maybe 69 on the tape. So on the bed piece over here, again, just trying to keep an eye on when it hits 71 so I can mark time. Or sorry, 72. It's at 71. It's 72, and I'm at 1340. So no, that's kind of ironic. So 140 versus 1340. So I just take off a minute 40 seconds. So it's now taken. So it's taken 12 minutes to come up to temperature, if my math is correct. I'm sure somebody will correct me if I'm wrong out there. So yeah, it'd take 12 minutes. So it took almost double the time for this bed to come up to temperature. So that's pretty much what I was going to be guessing. I wouldn't have guessed quite double. I would have probably guessed, 30-40% at least. But now we have, again, the same sort of disparity that we've seen across the board in these tests. Again, on the back sensor, I'm reading 62 degrees, so about 10 degrees off. And look at the front, how far I'm off here. So again, it says it's 72 on the controller, but my front temperature sensor says 56 degrees. And you notice these are pretty much now holding since we've made temperature. So now, from the Flir's perspective, The Flir is, actually this is probably the closest I think the Flir has read to the controller in both of my tests so far. And in this test, so I'm reading 68.5 on the bed. So this guy here is 68.5. So let's go ahead and let's take a thermal from an IR thermometer. Let's see what we come up with. So I'm coming up with 60, basically 61.2, which is pretty much in line with these guys. And I'm getting pretty much about the same on that now, since the temperature is equalized. So about 62.5. Just for grins and giggles, let's see what this front one. So I'm measuring 60. So now that's interesting. So I got 60.8 where this is reading 56.2. And then let's take a measurement off the back. Now this isn't going to be the best, so don't write and complain. So I'm at about 60.8 on the back, but that's probably a pretty rough measurement. If you want to get into all the physics, it's the diameter of the circle and how far you are away. And I've done a lot of research, trust me, over the past 2 weeks on this whole piece. But again, look at how lit up this guy is on the Flir versus this guy, and these are basically the same temperatures. So I'm at 69.4 roughly. And now this guy is reading a little bit warmer at about 73 degrees. Now this could be interesting again, because if you were printing PLA and putting this blue painter's tape, and I should probably back up. I should have probably talked about this earlier on, because one of the reasons I chose the blue painter's tape is when you're printing PLA, and this is primarily what you're going to print on this printer is PLA, this is the type of material you're typically going to use as some sort of tape to print on. And so I wanted to see or replicate what that would look like to the PLA plastic being laid down. So you can really kind of see here that the heat transfer with the tape, because I believe, again, what this tape is doing is holding some of the temperature, acting as a bit of an insulative body to collect this up. But now if I check this, so I'm at 62.8, and that's holding pretty steady. In case you can't see it, let's get a little bit closer so you can maybe see this. So as I get closer, I'm at about 64.5, roughly in there. Over here, notice I struggled to make 62. So there's about a 2 degree difference by this thermometer between those two areas. So again, I think what's happening is it's acting a bit of an insulative barrier, because you have the heat coming up, you have it being held into the glass by the insulative, of the tape, and it's sort of building it up and then releasing it through the tape. And I think that's the temperature difference. That would be my guess anyway, and that's only a guess, so don't write in me any hate mail, please. So anyways, I think this has been very interesting. So we've kind of gone through about measuring the beds with infrared. We've taken a look at it with PEI. We've now taken a look at it with glass. We've got some interesting temperature measurements over here. We've looked at using a infrared thermometer, point spot thermometer. We've looked at using the Flir camera, which is over there. And so I think this has been pretty interesting, and you can see how ununiform the temperature of this bed is. So one of the big suggestions, I would agree with, the idea of replacing this heater with a silicone AC heater, especially if you're going to try to do ABS and put this in a box. I think that's about the only route you're going to go, because I showed in the other video I can't get this up past 90 degrees. So anyways, I found that interesting. I think that's about all the stuff I wanted to cover, so I can't think of anything else. So the next step I'm going to do this actually, is I have this stuff, and I'm going to insulate the bed in one of the next videos. And I'm going to see if this improves the overall time, and also the performance of the heated bed. So anyways, with that being said, I'm going to close out this video. Hopefully you found this interesting, educated yourself a little bit about how the heat transfer happens in the bed. And again, I'm doing this on the larger CR10 bed because I think you're going to have more of a play in this because the bed is so big. However, this is I'll spit it out, applicable to all 3D printers. You know, it's just going to be the size and variance that's going to change. So anyways, hey, there's going to be a swag shop up there. There's going to be a subscribe button over there. You know the routine. There's comments below. Love to hear from you guys, both you know, constructively, negatively, as well as positively, either way. And hey, smash that thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.
Please click like below and subscribe to the channel to keep up to date on all of our projects.